Sports. We are Black Horse. We are Wisconsin.
Kyle Lohse, new team, new purpose. Baseball's winningest pitcher last year turns in his Cardinal red for Brewer blue. After a surprising offseason full of no's, a new chapter begins with the team that finally said yes. A pitcher with something to prove. Kyle Lohse, Milwaukee Brewer, makes his much anticipated debut tonight. Friday night baseball here on Fox Sports Wisconsin. The Milwaukee Brewers taking on the Arizona Diamondbacks. First of a three-game series here tonight, and the headliner is Kyle Lohse, his Brewers debut. Brewers picking up late. Big free agent acquisition for Doug Melvin and company, and on the mound for the very first time here tonight. Hi, everybody. We welcome you from Miller Park alongside Bill Schroeder. I'm Brian Anderson. Great to have you with us tonight. First, a bit of news. Ryan Braun is a late scratch from the starting lineup tonight, Brock. Ryan Braun is out with neck spasms, so Kyle Lohse will not have that big bat. But Lohse is still the headliner, and it's going to be good to see him finally get a season started.
And it's going to take him a while to settle in. I mean, he didn't have any spring training with a team. So, you can do all you want on your own, but it's not the same as being with a club, knowing the club, understanding the club. But with Kyle Lohse, you never know. This could be a start where he could be lights out, because we've seen it against the Brewers on a number of occasions. What you get with Kyle Lohse, you get a winning mentality. You got 16 wins a year ago. You get 200 innings, and when it's all said and done, it's going to be a very nice addition to this starting rotation.
Well, Kyle Lohse has only been with the team for a little over a week. One exhibition start. He's up tonight. Some great starts offensively, especially from Ricky Weeks and Aramis Ramirez. Craig and Davey will have more on that story when we continue as we move closer to first pitch.
Wisconsin is brought to you by Menards. Save big money on all your home improvement needs at Menards. By Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. By Toyota. Let's go places. And by the wireless receiver from AT&T Uverse. Visit att.com/freeyourtv. Rethink possible. Brewers back at home tonight, beginning a series against the Diamondbacks. Craig Kashan and Davey Nelson back with you here on Fox Sports Wisconsin. And the Brewers were hoping to get some good starts from two guys in particular, Ricky Weeks and Ramirez. So far, Davey, so good.
So exactly right. So far, so good. Ricky Weeks is off to a very good start. And I'm going to tell you, it's because of his approach and his mechanics. His approach has been very good at the plate, very patient. And his mechanics has changed from the second half of the season as he is hitting everything right on the nose. He is swinging the bat very good. Now, Ramirez has been very, very patient. You can see he's off to a very, very good start. And it's a lot of it's due to his patience at the plate. He's always had a good approach. And he looks very good, not getting fooled on breaking balls.
Now this young man, Chris Davis, is going to get his first start in left field for Ryan Braun. Supplied a lot of power during the spring. Gene Segura off to a terrific start. And there's the Brewer third baseman ready for baseball.
On a retro Friday, they take to the field at Miller Park. First Friday of the year and the first ball game for Kyle Lohse in the Brewer pinstripes tonight. Brewers and the Diamondbacks start a 3-game series this evening. And here is Kirk Gibson's Piggly Wiggly Diamondbacks batting order. Gerardo Parra will lead off in right field. Martin Prado at third base. Aaron Hill at second base bats third. The middle of the order is Miguel Montero, followed by Goldschmidt, then Kubel, Pollock, Pennington, and Miley rounded out the Menards Brewers defense. Chris Davis making his first start in the big leagues with Gomez in center, Aoki in right, Ramirez, Segura, Weeks, and Gonzalez around the horn. Lucroy does the catching. And you wonder what's going through the mind of Chris Davis here. And again, if you're just joining us, Ryan Braun is out, neck spasms. This happened earlier today. Happened to be at the batting cage shooting this, and you can see Braun clutches at his neck, the right side of his neck, and Rocky is a scratch for tonight's game.
Yeah, right there, and they could see hopefully it's not going to be too serious because the Brewers certainly cannot afford to be without him. It puts a little bit more pressure on Kyle Lohse as if he doesn't have enough. Anytime you have Ryan Braun out of the lineup, makes your job a little bit tougher, but I would imagine that Chris Davis is beside himself right now out there in left field.
Kyle Lohse ready to work. And how much he can give the Brewers tonight is a mystery. After a very limited spring training, most of it was self-controlled, as his first pitch in a Brewers uniform is outside ball one, and away we go. Gerardo Parra leading off for Arizona. A red hot hitter. The Diamondbacks coming off a series win against St. Louis, winning a marathon game on Wednesday. And there's strike one. Now the Diamondbacks went 16 innings against St. Louis on Wednesday, a game that lasted 5 hours and 32 minutes, which is a Chase Field record. A day off yesterday after winning the series against the Cardinals. There's Kurt Gibson.
Well, they completely retooled Arizona Diamondbacks ball club. Their pitching staff, a lot of new position players. But he's got a core of his team returning from a year ago.
Yeah, no more Justin Upton. Chris Young, no longer a Diamondback, as Parra swings and fouls that one away. Now, these two teams have mirrored each other quite a bit over the last couple of years. You might remember in 2011 they both ended up in the postseason in that terrific 5-game series in the NLDS, won by Milwaukee. And then last year both teams finished in third in their respective divisions. And some new pieces here and there. And certainly the biggest piece for the Brewers this offseason is this man right here in Kyle Lohse.
Man, already he's featuring every one of his pitches. We've seen the changeup, the curveball. He's best known as keeping the baseball down very well, limiting the home run ball. That's going to be important pitching here at Miller Park.
And there's a strikeout on a changeup from Lohse. And how about that for a start to a new chapter in his career?
Well, he relies on command. He's not going to blow anybody away. Not a big strikeout pitcher. You can see the super slow motion Parra way out in front on the changeup from Lohse. When you have a control pitcher that really hasn't pitched much, you would expect his command not to be very good, but that pitch was right where he wanted it.
Lohse, 34 years of age, out of Hamilton City, California. He's been pitching against amateur hitters most of the spring, various junior colleges, and pitched a simulated game where he went over 90 pitches against Scottsdale Community College. He made one exhibition start for the Brewers last week, and he went 3 1/3, so not much of a spring training at all. Martin Prado, one of the new Diamondbacks. He was part of that 7-player deal that sent Justin Upton to the Atlanta Braves. One of the very best utility players in the big leagues, as Lohse gets ahead of him 1-2.
Yeah, working quickly, throwing strikes with all of his pitches. It's a guy you want to play defense behind because he does work quickly. He throws a lot of strikes. He doesn't mess around too much.
Yeah, Prado doesn't bite. Now Lohse signing a 3-year deal with the Brewers. Coming off a monster year. He was 16-3. Had the best winning percentage in the major leagues last year at 16 wins and just 3 losses. Finished 5th in the National League in earned run average with a 2.86 ERA. And he starts this one with back-to-back strikeouts.
And another off-speed pitch. And watch the delivery of Kyle Lohse, pretty much standing tall, not a very long stride. And you know, when you don't have a long stride, you get good sink on your fastball. I learned that from Pete Vukovich way back when. There's a good changeup once again for a strikeout.
Well, he is going to be a joy to watch. You watch his mechanics, the way he goes about his business. A totally revamped pitcher, and he gives all of that credit to his former pitching coach in St. Louis, Dave Duncan. Lohse had bounced around. He was originally product of the Chicago Cubs, traded to the Twins. He made it to the big leagues with the Twins, traded to the Reds. Reds traded him to the Phillies. Finally signed a free agent deal with the St. Louis Cardinals in 2008, and that's where he said he evolved as a pitcher, matured as a pitcher, developed a two-seam fastball, which was a game changer for him. Falls behind 3-0 on Aaron Hill.
Yep, last 2 years with the Cardinals, a record of 30-11, ERA at around 3. I mean, those are tremendous numbers.
Strike one to Hill. And I think the other thing the Brewers like so much about Lohse, the fact that he has postseason experience. He's pitched in a World Series. He's a guy has a couple of wins in the postseason, including one last year. And he's back in the count, 3-2 on Aaron Hill.
How about a 3-1 changeup? I mean, that's pitching. And got Hill on a big swing and a miss.
Got a chance to strike out the side here. And Hill lines one to left, a base hit. Davis over to cut it off, his first chance, and a 2-out base hit for the Arizona second baseman.
Well, once again, not going with a fastball, 3-1. He goes with the breaking pitch on 3-2. Very good piece of hitting by Aaron Hill to wait back and hook it into left field.
Like the Colorado Rockies, the Diamondbacks can swing the bats, and the Brewers are trying to settle down the opponent's offense after a very rough series. Milwaukee dropping 2 out of 3 to the Rockies. Colorado with 8 home runs in that 3-game series against the Brewers. Brewers won opening day on a walk-off. That was in the 10th inning. Jonathan Lucroy's sac fly, and then dropping the final 2 games in that series. So some question marks with the pitching as we open the second series of the season. Miguel Montero at the plate for the Diamondbacks. Strike one. A lot of familiar names in this Diamondbacks lineup, and this has been an organization, Rock, now headed up by Kevin Towers, former general manager in San Diego, that has gone out and signed a number of players, including their manager and some of their coaches, to long-term deals to keep some continuity in Phoenix.
Well, the offense has been very good. They've added some guys in their bullpen. Heath Bell added in their pen. He's off to a rough start. They got J.J. Putz, David Hernandez, all guys with closer experience.
There's Putz on the left, Bell on the right. There's a strike from Lohse. 2-2 now on Montero. Arizona still without a couple of pieces. The guy they had slated to start in center field, Adam Eaton, is out with an elbow injury. And Willie Bloomquist, another terrific utility man, he's out with an oblique injury. And Cody Ross, a new acquisition, on the disabled list with a calf injury. Called strike 3, and how about that debut? Kyle Lohse, in his first inning as a Brewer, strikes out the side. tonight. Two managers that in their first full seasons in the same year, 2 years ago. Piggly Wiggly batting order for Renicky, Aoki, Segura, and Weeks. Ramirez, Lucroy, and Gonzalez in the middle with Chris Davis, Carlos Gomez, and Kyle Lohse rounding it out. Lohse is a guy who can handle the bat. And Rock, they'll be matching up against left-hander Wade Miley, who had one of the more impressive rookie seasons in Diamondbacks franchise history. Finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting last year.
Yeah, Bryce Harper won that award last year with the Washington Nationals. 29 starts, 32 appearances overall for the left-hander. Not a hard throw. You can see he was able to eat up some innings and kept the baseball in the ballpark pretty much all year. Only 14 home runs allowed. The Brewers, though, last year hit him pretty well in 2 starts.
Well, the Brewers have had some success against this young hurler. As Nori Aoki set to lead off. The Brewers beat him last June and scored 8 runs. 8 earned runs they posted against Miley in just 3 2/3 innings. And in his 2 starts against Milwaukee last year, he combined to go 9 2/3 innings and allowed 11 earned runs. It was about the only team he struggled against last year, the Brewers.
And tremendous numbers. He doesn't walk many.
And he works fast, as you can see. He's very much in the cut of a Mark Burley type. The Brewers saw him this spring, early in the spring, on March 7th, and it was shortly after that that the Diamondbacks shut Miley down. A dead arm phase. As Aoki pops it foul, that looks like it's headed for the seats. And don't forget, the Bucks are on tonight. They're on the Fox Sports Wisconsin alternate channel, and these are some of the carriers and the channel numbers. And if you don't see your carrier on there, you can go to foxsportswisconsin.com. But we have them both for you tonight, the Bucks and the Brewers. Payoff pitch to Aoki. Little tapper, going to be a tough play coming in. Pennington, no chance. And an infield hit for Nori Aoki.
And once that baseball took that second hop, it was going to be an impossible play for Pennington. Aoki gets out of that box and on his way to first base as quick as anybody in baseball. And once this baseball takes that next hop, no chance. Even if he put it in the glove, would not have been able to throw him out.
Aoki reaches, and a man on to start it. Again, if you're just picking us up, Ryan Braun not in the lineup tonight. Neck spasms on his right side, and a precautionary measure. It's not expected or thought to be serious. But this early in the season, on a cool night, despite the roof being closed, still cool temperatures inside Miller Park. Taking no chances with a perennial MVP candidate. The late scratch of Braun forced Renicky to juggle his lineup a little bit. Segura moves from the 8th spot on the order up to number 2. Segura lifts one in the air to right. Gerardo Parra is there. And there is out number 1. You've met Parra and Pennington. Let's give you the rest of the Diamondbacks defense, brought to you by Menards. Kubel in left with A.J. Pollock in center. And you got Prado, Pennington, Aaron Hill, and Paul Goldschmidt around the horn with Miguel Montero doing the catching here tonight. Got a Gold Glover in right field in Parra and Goldschmidt. The young slugger who is really impressed with his glove work at first base.
And he can hit. Driving in runs, hitting home runs a year ago.
Ricky Weeks batting third tonight. Off to a great start, as Craig and Davey talked about in our open tonight. Weeks leads the National League currently after the first 3 games in runs scored. He has been aboard a ton so far. Weeks and Ramirez off to blistering starts at the plate. Ricky popped his first home run against Colorado on Wednesday. Had 6 hits in the opening series of the year, 6 for 11. And has reached base safely in 9 of his first 14 plate appearances.
Man, 2 guys, Reeks and Ramirez, that got off to very slow starts last year, not this year.
Back up the middle, Pennington right there, and he'll start a 6-4-3 double play to end the inning. So no blood in the first, scoreless as we head to the second. The Diamondbacks coming up.
Inning in the first as we head to the second here at Miller Park. Tonight's time of the game winner is Bill's Corner Pub in Kenosha. If they call the Brewers in the next 24 hours, Bill's Corner Pub will receive 40 Miller Lite beer pen tickets to a Brewers home game. This offer courtesy of the Tavern League of Wisconsin and Miller Lite. For some reason, I just wanted to say Bill's Corner Pub twice.
Yeah, it's always been your dream to own a pub, and that'd probably be what the name of it.
Yeah, right on the corner.
Kyle Lohse ready to go to work here in the second inning. Struck out the side in the first. Did allow a single to Aaron Hill. But he punched out Prado, and he got Montero looking, facing Paul Goldschmidt to start the second inning. We were talking about Miley against the Brewers last year. Brewers had a lot of success against the Diamondbacks starter. Just the opposite for the Diamondbacks offense versus Kyle Lohse a season ago. Lohse made 2 starts while pitching for the Cardinals against Arizona last year and gave up just 1 earned run in 11 2/3 innings. 2 starts, won a ball game, and a .77 ERA against Arizona a season ago. Got in on the hands of Goldschmidt.
Well, he didn't pitch poorly against too many teams. He only lost 3 games.
Now, what a year, and he certainly thought a year like that was going to translate into a monster contract. He still signed a big deal with the Brewers, but not near what he and his agent Scott Boras were expecting this offseason. And the Brewers are certainly glad to have him. I remember talking to Mark Atanasio before games started in the Cactus League in spring training, and Mark Atanasio said, I got a good feeling about Lohse. And come to find out, a month later, he was able to sign him. And Doug Melvin was on with us yesterday, and Doug Melvin made it very clear that that negotiation was between Boras and Atanasio, and Melvin was running the ball club and preparing for the season. And that was just an agent to owner conversation that ended up getting signed just at the end of spring training.
And no middleman there, right?
Cut to the chase.
The guy that writes the checks is going to make the deal. Why not?
There was a 3-year deal. A swing and a miss. Every out has been a strikeout for Kyle Lohse.
Well, there's the high fastball right there after a steady diet of off-speed pitches, change-ups, curveballs. There's a two-seam fastball up in the zone and gets by Goldschmidt. Don't have to throw hard to get strikeouts up in the strike zone. You got to be able to throw your off-speed pitches for strikes early in the count.
Now, Lohse not typically a big strikeout pitcher. A lot of balls put in play against Kyle Lohse, but tonight he has been a strikeout pitcher. 4 in a row. Facing Jason Kubel, the Brewers implement a big shift on Kubel, and it's quickly 0-2.
Yeah, Ron Reneke's probably hoping for fewer strikeouts and more second pitch ground ball outs. We're going to keep that pitch count down for Lohse, so he's able to stay out there a little bit longer. The target is around 80 tonight.
Well, you know, we were talking in the pregame show, Brewers Live pregame, about Kyle Lohse, and he's a guy that's going to have a lot of expectations on him. He puts a lot on himself. But then you say, well, tonight he's probably going to have the least amount of expectations from his own dugout and clubhouse, as he will all year, because of the nature of his spring training. But when you start by striking out every batter, every out, I think all of a sudden you're looking at this going, wait a minute, maybe he is a little stronger than we thought. 2-2 to Kubel. Goodness gracious. Kyle Lohse, 5 strikeouts already.
And that way a cut fastball right there that once again stayed up in the strike zone. Here it comes. Watch the spin. And Kubel right underneath. He's thrown about 5 different pitches already tonight. And there's a slider that gets the left-hander.
Every out has been a K. 4 swinging strikes. Montero took a called strike, and there's strike 1 on A.J. Pollock. Getting a chance to play a lot early in the season with a couple of injuries to outfielders. That ball's hit well right field. There is Aoki. And the first non-strikeout out. Hard to temper expectations when you're pitching like this. Welcome Kyle Lohse, indeed, and what a start it has been for Lohse. 2 innings, 1 hit, 5 strikeouts. As Aramis Ramirez leads off for the Brew Crew here in the second. It will be Ramirez, Lucroy, and Alex Gonzalez. Wade Miley gave up an infield hit to Aoki in the first, and then wiped it out with a 6-4-3 double play to end the inning as Ramirez gets his first crack at Wade Miley. Aramis with a couple of RBIs early, had those on opening day with a double. Has doubles in each of the first 3 games of the season. First time a Brewer player has done that since Carlos Lee back at 06 as Ramirez goes down on strikes. All right, Rock, our carsoup.com email the booth question comes from Sam at UWM. He wants to know, how many gloves does a catcher use in a season? Do they wear out?
Yeah, they wear out, but I mean, it's going to take a while for them to wear out. I mean, typically they'll carry 2 or 3 gloves with them if they're going on a road trip. The Brewers go to Chicago and St. Louis. They'll probably carry 3, 1 gamer, 1 ready to go in case the gamer breaks. We saw that in the series to start the year with the Colorado Rockies. One of the Rockies gloves, catcher's gloves, broke. He got another one, and then you have one you carry around to break in. So you have 2 game ready gloves and then 1 that you're breaking in.
Always keep the cycle going, huh?
Typically a glove should last an entire year.
You still have some of your catcher's mitts from your playing days?
I do, yeah. Hanging up in the room.
Ooh, Lucroy takes one high and tight. Now Lucroy getting the call behind the plate tonight.
Miley not afraid to come inside. Doesn't throw hard. Has to come inside and keep hitters off balance.
Lucroy is still hitless for the season, but already has a walk-off to his credit this year. That sacrifice fly, the game winner on opening day. And a good thing the Brewers were able to win that opener against Colorado after dropping the last 2. Lucroy into right field. Going back is Parra, Gold Glove outfielder, and he makes the catch for out number 2.
Well, the goose egg on the board for Lucroy is going to last long. He has got a great approach. He thinks up the middle into the opposite field. Just got under that last one just a bit. Not a great crowd here tonight on a Friday. This is baseball weather if it's inside.
Right. It's nice inside Miller Park.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, we hope you'll make plans to be a part of the fun this weekend. Diamondbacks are here through Sunday. Mike Fire starts tomorrow for the Brewers, and then Giovanni Gallardo on Sunday afternoon. Alex Gonzalez with 2 outs. Delivered his first hit of the season yesterday, or rather Wednesday, and it produced a run. 1 for 9 to start the year. Quickly 0-2 on Gonzalez. Spoils that one foul. Alex said he's spending a lot of his mental energy right now just making sure things are in place at first base. It's not the ground balls or the short hop picks that he's worried about as he takes a called strike 3, and Miley rips through the Brewers order in the second. 1-2-3 with a couple of Ks. And Kyle Lohse, freaky fast to 5 strikeouts already after 2 innings.
And using all of his pitches to do it. Fastballs, you know, the 4-seamer, the 2-seamer, sliders, and changeups. And he looks pretty sharp, to say the least, so far here in the first 2 innings.
37 pitches for Lohse. And if you haven't been following the Kyle Lohse story, he signed very late in the spring. He was basically on his own program, trying to stay in shape, pitching against amateur players, college players. So I don't think anybody really knew what to expect here tonight, but he does look strong early. I think the 2 things you're concerned the most about with Lohse, as he faces Cliff Pennington here, is command and innings. And those are the 2 strengths of Kyle Lohse. He eats up a lot of innings and he has great command, but when you haven't been pitching much, you worry about those things. But so far, so good for Kyle Lohse.
Well, the command has been very good. The endurance, we'll have to see how long he's going to be able to stay out there. I think the Brewers are going to be pulling him out before I think he tires. I think they want to be cautious with him.
Certainly has the adrenaline pumping here tonight with a new franchise.
And again, Lohse is used to getting, you know, traded and moving to organization to organization. The Brewers are his 5th big league team. So he's been there, done that.
2-2 to Pennington. And he rips one to right. That is down, a base hit. Aoki able to cut it off. And the sliding stop allows him to make a good strong throw, and that holds Pennington to a single. As we check in with Sophia Menard. Good evening, Sophia.
Hey, Brian. All eyes tonight on Kyle Lohse, and no surprise, he is the subject of tonight's AT&T Twitter poll. Our question for Brewers fans: what is the biggest contribution Kyle Lohse can make? You see the options there on the screen. Is it his wins, 16 of those last year, his leadership, or his innings? We'll be back later in the game to update the results. Lohse cruising along nicely here, Brian.
All right, thanks a lot, Sophia. Keeping an eye on the social media, and we always encourage you to get interactive with us tonight. Twitter handle at FS Wisconsin, also on Facebook.
Well, the Brewers are hoping the answer to that is going to be wins. That's the main thing. That's what it's all about. You get the leadership, and if you get the wins, you're probably going to get the innings too.
Miley trying to get a bunt down, and he's down 0-2. You would have to think that just watching Kyle Lohse pitch every 5th day is going to rub off on the rest of the Brewers starting rotation, especially the young guys, Mike Fiers, Willie Peralta. You see Marco Estrada there with Giovanni Gallardo. And they're bearing down on him, aren't they? Keeping a close eye. Miley does get a bunt down. Well executed sacrifice, and the Diamondbacks with a runner at second base for the first time and 1 out.
Man, you think about it. I mean, the Brewers starting rotation right now is not a bunch of guys that walk many batters. I mean, Gallardo can have a tendency to be wild. He'll walk some guys, but he has the strikeouts to back it up. Fiers goes right after you. We'll see him tomorrow. And Marco Estrada very rarely walks anybody. So it's a group, I think, that will learn from Kyle Lohse as he goes about his business. As check out Willie Peralta. But already they understand that they have to throw strikes and work quickly.
Yeah, first time through the rotation, at least up until tonight. So-so results. No starter able to get through 6 innings. And each giving up 3 or more earned runs. Gallardo 3, Peralta and Estrada giving up 4 earned runs in their first starts. Live or die with the pitching. And the Brewers are hoping they have made a significant addition in Kyle Lohse. Parra cut and the miss. Back to the top of the Diamondbacks order. Parra was the first Lohse strikeout.
That's a great changeup, isn't it? A changeup that you get a swing on has to be over the plate. It's got to be down. It'd like to be down, but it has to be over the plate. If it's in or out, guys aren't going to swing at it. And Lohse has been dialed into that home plate with that changeup so far tonight.
Lucroy sets up inside, and Parra whacks one to Weeks. He caught it in the air, throw to second in time. Double play. Ricky Weeks with a late stab to take that one in the air. And it turns into a 4-6 double play to end the inning. No score. We head to the bottom of the third inning. Kyle Lohse against Wade Miley tonight. Brewers Diamondbacks. And here's Chris Davis, his first start as a big leaguer. A couple of pinch hit appearances so far, and 0 for 2. Had a strikeout. His first time up, his first big league at bat against Colorado. He smoked a ball to third, a line drive out. Now he'll get a chance to settle in and get a few at bats. Ryan Braun is out, a late scratch from the batting order with neck spasms.
That's too bad because Ryan Braun has hit Wade Miley very well. He's got 2 career home runs against the Diamondbacks left-hander. Out of the lineup today.
And this particular Chris Davis trying to be the second Chris Davis in the big leagues to grab all the headlines. He spells his name differently than the Orioles version. But the Chris Davis in Baltimore has 16 RBIs already. He's homered in his first 4 games. He's driven in at least 3 runs in his first 4 games.
16 ribbies.
16 ribbies.
Oh.
That's the highest total through 14 games since they started recording RBIs in the major leagues.
I guess.
He's on quite a pace. And Davis swings and misses. Down he goes on strike. So wait a minute. That's a foul ball. And new life for Davis as that one hit the dirt.
4 RBIs a game for 4 games has got to be a record. Man.
So that's the other Chris Davis who spells his name C-H-R-I-S.
Well, it hits the dirt clearly, and so Chris Davis with a K stays alive.
Now what a thrill for Davis. Not only does he get his first major league start tonight, but he's doing it against his hometown team. He grew up in the Phoenix Scottsdale area. And Miley puts it right by him. A strikeout as Montero throws the ball into left field.
Hey, this coming Sunday, the Brewers take on these Diamondbacks at 1:10 p.m. and all fans in attendance will get a Nori Aoki bobblehead. That's courtesy of Robert Hack Diamonds. Go to Brewers.com for tickets.
Nori Aoki hoping for an at-bat here in this third inning. Here's Carlos Gomez. Well, we had this Nori Aoki bobblehead, but then we got one delivered today, the Retro Friday version, which is appropriate for tonight.
Got one back on my my set of monitors back there. Might be the best likeness we've ever seen on a bobblehead.
Got a whole roster of Nori Aoki's. I like them.
Did you see the new BP hats that they broke out today?
I like those.
It's the old 80s with the yellow panel in front. The old 80s road cap. I liked it.
So these are the gamers, like the helmets and the hats have all blue. But the BP hats have that old school panel. Reminded me of Harvey Keane for some reason.
Didn't remind you of me?
You had yours on backwards with a mask on in the bullpen.
I've got one of those hats hanging right next to the old catcher's mitt.
Wow, Miley makes quick work of Gomez. And he has 4 strikeouts.
These two guys not messing around at all here tonight. High fastball at 91 miles an hour, and Carlos Gomez off to a bit of a slow start this year. Threw it right by him.
Gomez now 1 for 13 on the season. Kyle Lohse, good hitting pitcher. Didn't show up so much last year. He hit under 100 last season, but over his career, he's been a guy that can handle the bat. As a matter of fact, Lohse one year hit .216 for a full season. And down he goes. So Wade Miley matching Kyle Lohse pitch for pitch. 5 strikeouts for the left-hander. On Fox Sports Wisconsin is brought to you by Piggly Wiggly, the official supermarket of Fox Sports Wisconsin, and by Marshfield Clinic. Don't just live, shine. No score at Miller Park. We head to the 4th inning, and we want to send out our congratulatory wishes to the Brewers Senior Director of Team Travel, Dan Larea, and his wife Stacy, welcoming in twins on Wednesday, Isabella and Jacob, born Wednesday afternoon. Congratulations to Dan and Stacy.
Yep, saw Danny down in the Brewers clubhouse today. Big smile on his face. I don't blame him. It's a big day.
His twins are a day old, and he still gets us the road trip itinerary right on schedule. What a guy. So happy for the Lareas. Also want to send out our best wishes to Andy Stevering, who is out with back surgery, one of our terrific camera operators. As Martin Prado delivers one into the gap in left center, a base hit. That's the 3rd hit against Lohse. And for the 2nd straight inning, a leadoff base hit. Martin Prado with a double.
Prado, nice addition to this Diamondbacks ball club, a team that will strike out quite a bit, but not Prado, typically a good contact hitter, able to find the gap in left center on that Kyle Lohse fastball. Guy that can play just about anywhere, play him in the infield, the outfield, and he can hit regardless of where he plays.
So the Diamondbacks threatening here in the fourth with a runner in scoring position. And here's Aaron Hill. Shallow fly ball center field. Gomez able to run it down. And you can see the Diamondbacks. They're up there aggressive now. Some early count swings. Hill retired.
And that's what you do when you get a sense that a pitcher that you're facing has good command of off speed, sliders, curveballs, changeups, and second time through you say, I'm going to get a fastball. If I get a good one to hit, I'm going after it. I'm not going to wait around.
That'll bring up Miguel Montero. Struck out looking to end the first inning. There are a lot of layers with Kyle Lohse as he joins this team so late. Obviously, it has resulted one main area with a 13-man pitching staff. Because Lohse hasn't pitched that much, Renicky going with 8 relievers just in case, which shortens the bench, Rock. It leaves you with just 4 players in reserve. And, of course, Ryan Braun not available tonight. So you're talking about a 3-man bench tonight. And then the other part of the Lohse addition, and you wonder this, how much does Jonathan Lucroy need to get up to speed with Kyle Lohse? Calling a game, knowing his strengths and weaknesses.
It seems like they're doing just fine. I saw him in the coaches conference room, and during batting practice going through the paces. I'm sure they've talked quite a bit already this year.
Montero to first. Gonzalez right there. He'll take it to the bag for out number 2. Prado advances to third. Hey, a reminder, coming up tomorrow, Fox Saturday Baseball returns. The Angels and the Rangers. Josh Hamilton returning to Arlington. Or you can see the Yankees and the Tigers, or the Cardinals and the reigning World Series champion Giants. Debut of Fox Saturday Baseball tomorrow.
See the Giants beat the Cardinals 1-0 today. Barry Zito on the mound. Sergio Romo with the save. Some kind of pitching staff out there in San Francisco.
Great pitching and 2 World Series titles in the last 3 years. And Josh Hamilton and the Angels played his first game in Arlington as an opponent. Rangers won that game today 3-2. Much anticipated matchup between Hamilton going back into Arlington. Hamilton was 0 for 4 today with a couple of strikeouts. Great to have you with us tonight on Fox Sports Wisconsin. The Brewers and the Diamondbacks. First of a 3-game series from Miller Park. Brian Anderson with Bill Schroeder. Our producer Wave Robinson. Kevin Shank, our director tonight. Mark Concanon and Sophia Minard, our reporters tonight. Sophia's keeping an eye on the social media buzz.
Gang's all here tonight, right? So all get the ballpark. Of course, we're missing Telly. He's over doing the Bucks.
Yeah, Bucks are on the alternate channel tonight, Fox Sports Wisconsin. Everybody's in play tonight. Goldschmidt takes a strike. Lohse dropped it right on the corner with a changeup, and it's 2-2.
Well, when you're able to throw that pitch, when you're behind in the count as a pitcher, that's how you win 16 games. 2-1, hitter-looking fastball, and you get the changeup right on the outside corner.
See what he does with him here. 2-2 pitch. Goldschmidt rifles one in the gap in right center, and that's going to bring a run in. Goldschmidt on his way to second, and it's an RBI double, and the Diamondbacks take the first lead of the night.
Nice adjustment by Goldschmidt. That was a changeup again. Same location, and he waited back and just pounded it into right center. That's a nice piece of hitting. Not a bad pitch by Lohse. Goldschmidt, a run producer, goes down and gets it and drives in the first run of the game.
Martin Prado had that leadoff double. He scores. 1-0 Arizona, and that'll bring up Jason Kubel now. Kubel with the big shift on, Weeks out in the grass, makes the play to win the inning. But the Diamondbacks strike first. RBI double by Paul Goldschmidt. 1-0 Arizona.
Fourth, and Ron Renneke told me he's pleased with the start of Gene Segura, who had a great season of winter ball, great season in spring training, and that's carried over early into the regular season. Renneke says that where Gene is hitting, usually in the 8th spot, he's batting second tonight with Ryan Braun unavailable. And Renneke says it's important for Gene to be on base when the pitcher comes up or late in the game when a pinch hitter can get inserted. But guys, just a natural progression from winter ball to spring ball, now to the regular season. Gene doing very well.
Yeah, he won a batting title in the Dominican Winter League this year. He's just a guy who keeps on hitting no matter where he goes. I think the Brewers were very pleased that he decided to play winter ball and then had so much success carrying over a fantastic finish to the season last year in the big leagues. Aoki sends one foul territory, and that will land safely. Good effort out there by Cliff Pennington, the shortstop, and Martin Prado.
And when Segura just had a different look to him when he got to spring training this year. You know, he came on the scene, you know, after the trade, and you would expect him to be a little bit in all the situation that he was in. He did a very nice job defensively, did Segura, last year. Had struggles with the bat, which you would expect, but he looks like a complete player right now.
Little bouncer. That is a foul ball. Foul ball called by the third base umpire, Andy Fletcher. It was close. Fletcher was right on it.
Couldn't get much closer. You're going to get a good look at it right here. Aoki just chopping down on that baseball. And you can see it was foul. Good call. It looked a lot closer than that in regular speed. And once that ball bounces, you can see the third baseman over there, Prado, catches it in foul territory.
And Aoki fouls that one off his foot. Aoki has the only hit tonight for the Brewers. He had an infield hit to start it offensively. Miley has retired 8 in a row since then, and there was a double play in that first inning that eliminated Aoki from the bases. So he faces the minimum first time through the batting order. And down goes Aoki. Pitch in the dirt. Montero secures it at first. How about 6 strikeouts and 5 in a row for Wade Miley.
And breaking ball down and away, and Nori not able to get a piece of it. Miley looking pretty good.
And the Brewers Community Involvement Initiative, known as the Community Achievers Award, will recognize residents throughout the state of Wisconsin each month during the season for displaying extraordinary efforts in their community. All adults and school-age children throughout the state are eligible to participate in the Community Achievers Award program. I would imagine it's a little bit of a burden off Segura to hit second as opposed to 8th. I think the toughest spot in a batting order for a young hitter is 8th, hitting in front of the pitcher.
Yeah, you're how they attack you changes as the game goes on. Early in the game, they're going to be patient with you. If first base is open or there's 2 outs and nobody on, they'd rather face the pitcher. So you have to have a guy that's patient at the plate.
That ball's hit well to center field. Back goes Pollock at the wall. Pollock leaps, and it's gone. Gene Segura to center field. His first of the year, and we're all tied at 1.
Well, patient at the plate. He got a 2-0 fastball and knocked it out of here to the deepest part of the ballpark. Not by much, but enough. First of the year for Segura.
And his first career home run. A big moment. Gene Segura goes deep for the first time in the big leagues. Ricky Weeks with 1 out, and there is strike 1.
And you love the fact that he's aggressive on a 2-0 count. I mean, patient at the plate. What that means is you're patient until you get a pitch that you like. So he had the count in his favor. 2-0. He got a fastball down the middle and didn't take it. How many guys do you see take 2-0 fastballs? Right down the middle. And then the count gets to 2-1. It's a completely different at bat.
Reason, a big smile on his face. Finally gets the donut off the board on his stat sheet for a career. Haven't been around that long. There's a bouncer up the middle. Base hit. Ricky Weeks follows the Segura home run with a single. Take a look at the home run swing, Rock.
Yep, you see the 2-seam fastball trying to get down and away. Leaves her up, outer half, and Segura with a nice swing, centers on it. He likes that high fastball, and he knocked that one out of here to center.
Pollock gave it a good try. Segura #1 on the Powerball home run count. There are a lot of folks who feel like Segura is going to be a pretty solid power hitter. You know, a guy who hits 10 to 15 a year, maybe 20. He did have a 10 home run season in the minor leagues a few years back. I remember a conversation with his Double-A manager when he was with the Angels, a guy by the name of Mike McCucci, and one of the first things Mike said, who had Segura for half a season last year, is he said when he settles in the big leagues, he's going to hit for power. He's got a lot of strength.
Well, the strength of his at-bats right now is taking the ball to the opposite field. We saw that all spring, taking balls into right field, and once he shows the league that he's going to be very good at going to right, he's going to get pitches to pull. And he's going to have to be able to take advantage of that.
What a start he's off to. 6 hits already, 6 for 13 through the first 4 games of the season. That was his first extra base hit. Ramirez.
Double play combination for the Brewers is off to a good start, huh?
Yeah.
Segura and Weeks.
Ramirez has played mentor to the young shortstop Segura. Said he really likes him. He loves his attitude. Said he doesn't talk like or act like a first-year player. Had a little bit of time last year in the big leagues in September, and his first full season in 2013.
Let's see, Ricky's taking off on his 3-2 count.
Miley thinking along with you. Checks on him at first. All tied at 1. Goldschmidt drove in the run for the Diamondbacks at the top of this inning. Segura's home run squares it up. And now Ramirez, 3-2. And he yanks it foul. Look out. Whistled it into the Diamondbacks dugout. Hope everybody's all right. Not a whole lot of reaction time there. And the players like to, as you can see, they like to sit up on that top row exposed. Another 3-2. Ramirez down the line. Fair ball. On his way to third is Weeks. Ramirez is going to try the throw to second base in time. And Ramirez is hurt. Ramirez injured his knee this spring sliding into second base, and that looked very similar. And this is not a good sign here.
Well, he went into that base very hard. A late slide. Hits the chalk, or almost hits the chalk, and nice play out there by Jason Kohl to throw into second base. Look how hard he goes in. Not sure what he hurt. Kind of a pop-up slide. Maybe right there when that foot hit the bag, maybe something got jarred loose. Who knows? I mean, it looks okay there, but once he hits the bag, he hits it with that stiff front leg, and no telling what could have happened then.
It is a day where the Brewers already have a short bench. Braun scratched from the lineup with neck spasms. And now Ramirez trying to hang in there. Looks like Renicky and athletic trainer Dan Wright.
Well, he's in a lot better shape than you would have anticipated when he first went down. At least he's walking off under his own steam.
Now Ramirez will exit this game. And the top run producing duo last year in the National League, Braun and Ramirez, are out of this game for now.
Well, he was out at second base, so he's going into the dugout. It looks like he might be having to exit the game, but we don't know yet.
That's a good point. Still a chance he could stay. We'll see.
Ron Renicky's pulling for him to stay in there. I guess not. Then we'll see.
So that is the second out. Jason Kubel picks up another outfield assist. He led the National League in that category last year. He set a Diamondbacks club record at 14 outfield assists last season, and he guns down Aramis Ramirez. So 2 men are gone. Weeks over at third. And here's Jonathan Lucroy. Yeah, Ramirez this spring had a slide into second base, and it scared him a great deal. You might remember last year Alex Gonzalez sliding into second base tore his ACL, and that was kind of the fear when you saw Ramirez do that this spring. And you're just hoping it's not something chronic with the knee. He said he's had no problems with his knee throughout his career. As Lucroy bounces to short, the inning is over. We'll wait and see on Ramirez. The highlight of the inning, though, home run number 1 of his big league career. Gene Segura ties it at 1. Well, Ramirez will in fact be taken out of this game. Mark Kincannon is down there. We'll have a report as soon as we get it. Alex Gonzalez making his first career appearance at third base in a week where he's already made his first career appearance at first base. Uni Betancourt will take over at first. So a thin bench to start. Got thinner with the absence of Braun and the neck injury. And even thinner now with Ramirez on his way to the clubhouse. Lohse back on the mound. First ball swinging. A.J. Pollock, and he flies out to start the inning.
Yeah, residents in Milwaukee, Ozaki, Racine, Washington, and Waukesha counties can purchase half-price tickets to the Brewers games versus the Pirates and the Cardinals April 29th through May 3rd. Some restrictions apply. Save 50% on tickets at brewers.com/5county.
Kyle Lohse has 5 strikeouts. All of those came in the first 2 innings. He's given up 1 run on 4 hits thus far. A couple of doubles last inning. Martin Prado to start the inning, and then Goldschmidt doubled Prado home with 2 outs. Total board is identical right now. A run, 4 hits, no errors. So Pennington, who was the star Wednesday night at the witching hour after a 5.5-hour game, Pennington had the game-winning RBI against St. Louis in the 16th inning. He has one of the 4 Diamondbacks hits. Clean single to right to start the 3rd inning.
What was that, 5 hours and what, 32 minutes, I'd say? And that tied a Diamondback record. What, are you kidding me?
In their longest game, 18 innings. But as far as time on the clock,
exactly the same.
5:32. So if had Pennington just taken one more pitch.
Right. Wow.
I found it interesting that the Diamondbacks played that game. They finished the game around midnight, and then they flew to Milwaukee that night, Wednesday night. They finally arrived in Milwaukee at sunset Thursday. They had an entire day off yesterday. Some teams will stay at home, like the Brewers, for example. They'll stay in their home area and then leave the next day. It's a pop-up by Pennington. Alex Gonzalez, his first ever play as a third baseman. Not a problem. 2 outs. Well, today's high-speed pitch is presented by Charter Cable. Wade Miley and Kyle Lohse. Miley topping out at 93. He's got good life on his fastball. Lohse at 91. Miley was able to drop down a sacrifice bunt his last time up.
11 punch outs between the 2 pitchers, and the fastest pitch 93, so you don't have to throw hard to strike out batters.
Miley has those 6 strikeouts, and at one point struck out 5 in a row. Lohse trying to make quick work of him here in the 5th inning. Lohse's pitch count at 70 right now. Can follow that pitch count up there on the score bug in the top left corner. 22 pitch first inning, has been extremely efficient since. Slow roller to Gonzalez. The ball will find you, will it not? Looks like a third baseman. Hasn't even taken a ground ball over there all season.
Time to check out the Brewer minor league report. Encouraging news about a young man that Brewer fans know a lot about. Hunter Morris, MVP of the AA Southern League in 2012. His AAA debut last night for Nashville. How about this? 2 for 4, a double, a homer, 4 RBIs. The Sounds beat New Orleans. Good night all around in Nashville. Tyler Thornburg had 5 innings pitched, 7 strikeouts, gave up 1 run on 3 hits. Encouraging news from down south, guys.
And a couple of stars on the rise. Certainly hope that is the case. Saw Hunter Morris a lot this spring. And that guy probably put a little too much pressure on himself. That opening day job at first base suddenly became available. The injury to Matt Gamble, and Corey Hart still coming back from knee surgery.
First spring training from Morris, and certainly you would expect much better for him next year when spring training comes around. You never know, you might see him at some point this year.
Alex Gonzalez was so good at first base. Renicky just decided to send Morris down for a little more seasoning, some more at bats at the AAA level. Gonzalez getting the starting nod at first base. Alex is currently at third base. If you're just picking us up here, the Brewers have had to deal with some injuries tonight. Ryan Braun was a late scratch. He injured his neck during batting practice, neck spasms. Ramos Ramirez just sliding into second last inning is out with a leg injury as Gonzalez strikes out, and 1 gone for Miley. That is strikeout number 7.
And 93 miles an hour on the fastball and up out of the strike zone, and Gonzalez chases it up and in. Tough pitch to get to.
What a well-pitched ball game so far. Miley and Lohse working fast, throwing strikes. A variety of pitches. Chris Davis got the start for Braun. A strikeout victim in the 3rd inning. He was part of that run of 5 in a row for Wade Miley.
I tell you, Miley doesn't venture too far from that pitching rubber, does he? Got to slow him down, step out a little bit. Try and make him pitch at your pace if you can. And he's not messing around out there.
It's a carbon copy of the man he emulated his game after, Mark Burley. Burley, for many years known as baseball's version of the hurry-up offense. As Davis fouls it back, Burley now with the Blue Jays.
And another guy that barely hits 90 miles an hour, Burley. Throws a lot of strikes.
One gone, ball and 2 strikes on Chris Davis. And a called strike 3 inside corner.
He has been tough on the bottom of the Brewers order so far tonight. There's that 4-seam fastball on the inside part of the plate, right on the corner, and Chris Davis apparently looking for something away, and he catches the edge on the inside.
So 2 gone, and here comes Gomez now. Gomez has an RBI double this season, his only hit of the year. Well, the Brewers are hoping Gomez doesn't feel the burden of signing a multi-year contract. Got a great spring. And he rips one to left. Well, the bottom of the Brewers batting order from the 6th hitter down had nothing but strikeouts until that base hit by Gomez. A reminder, this copyrighted telecast is presented by authority of the Brewers, may not be reproduced or retransmitted in any form, and the accounts and descriptions of this game may not be disseminated without express written consent of the Milwaukee Brewers. Friday night at Miller Park, all tied at 1, 2 outs in the inning, and Kyle Lohse at the plate.
Now, this is a spot where Gomez better make sure he makes it if he takes off. Last thing you want to have is the pitcher spot due up to lead off the 6th. Particularly when you only have two players on your bench. Logan Schaefer and Martin Maldonado. That's it.
Braun and Ramirez out with injuries. Still awaiting a report from the Brewers clubhouse on Aramis Ramirez. See Renicky looking at the stopwatch. It's a tough combination. Montero throws the ball well. The Diamondbacks catcher Miley is quick to the plate, quick to first base. Got a lot working against him here in case he does want to try to steal a base.
And he gives a slide step, makes it even tougher to get a read. Doesn't appear that Gomez is going to be able to get a jump. Just stay put. Don't get thrown out.
1-2 on Lohse. A good block by Montero. They got two terrific catchers in this series, and Montero and Lucroy both swing the bat well.
You don't hear a lot about Miguel Montero, but I tell you, he's pretty good. Back-to-back years, he's led all National League catchers in innings caught. That tells you he's very durable.
Well, what you do hear about Montero typically has to do with what he does at the plate. He's a weapon offensively. Guy who hits in the middle of that order tonight. He's hitting cleanup for the Diamondbacks. Drove in 88 runs last year. 2-2 to Lohse. And he's hanging tough. Count remains at 2 balls and 2 strikes. And a good take. So Lohse works it into a full count, and now Gomez can get a head start. And you can almost hear Garth Ordge from here say, do not get picked off. 3-2. There he goes. And Lohse into center field. That ball's hit. Back is Pollock. He's got it for the out. Oh, Lohse squared it up. But Pollock right there, and the inning comes to an end. Gene Segura with his first career major league home run. Kyle Lohse, the headliner tonight, and he has lived up to the billing so far. A guy who had one exhibition start in spring training, went 3 1/3. His only appearance with the Brewers this spring, and he kicks off his regular season against the Diamondbacks tonight. And here he is working into the 6th inning. He begins this inning with 72 pitches. And now getting into the 3rd time through the batting order. Top of the order is up. Gerardo Parra takes strike 1. Gerardo Parra has been off to a scorching start, has 8 hits already. 8 hits in his first 3 games, and 5 of those 8 hits are extra base hits. 3 doubles, a triple, and a home run.
Kind of the odd man out a year ago. It was tough for Parra to get some playing time, but he certainly is not going to have any problem this year.
He's one of the most accomplished outfielders in the game. He won a Gold Glove 2 years ago. He and Ryan Braun were neck and neck in that Gold Glove vote. Won by Parra, who was a left fielder then, has a very strong arm.
Yeah, you don't run on this guy in the outfield. Strong arm, very accurate, quick release.
Ball and 2 strikes on Parra. Lohse still sitting on 5 strikeouts. Parra just got a piece. Well, he takes a big rip even with 2 strikes.
He takes a big rip, but he wakes back nicely. He makes pretty good contact. Doesn't have big power, more gap to gap and doubles hitter. Off to a tremendous start. Has not walked yet this year.
Well, he started the season with a 4-hit game against St. Louis opening day. This past Monday, he was 4 for 5, had 3 doubles against the Cardinals. Hitting leadoff for now, while Adam Eaton is on the disabled list with an elbow injury. They're expecting Eaton back in mid-May, perhaps. As Parra goes down the left field line, that's down, a base hit. Parra on his way to second, and it is a double to start the 6th inning.
That's what we're talking about with Parra. I mean, that's good bat control right there. Very patient, just flipping that baseball down the line. Good pitch by Lohse. It was a slider, a backdoor variety. He went down and got it, and then was able to stay on top of it and slice it down that left field line. That's good bat. Good at bat by Parra.
And his 9th hit in 4 games that leads the National League, and 4 doubles already. So the Diamondbacks with a runner in scoring position to start this 6th inning. That brings the Brewers bullpen to life. Here's Martin Prado. Mike Gonzalez getting loose. Now every out at this point for Lohse is bonus time from the perspective of his manager. He was hoping to get 5 out of him. Here he is pitching in the 6th inning. And look at Prado just give himself up. Grounder to the right side. Advances the runner.
I would imagine that Kyle Lohse had to do some good salesmanship to keep himself in the game here. You know, Ron Renicky, Rick Kranitz want to make sure they don't overextend him here tonight. He probably told him, I want to go back out there. I feel good. And there he is. Well, you've been around a while. Your manager will afford you the luxury of listening to what you have to say. And trust you, going to make sure that he tells the manager how he really feels.
So the first out here is Aaron Hill. Brewers bring their infield in. And a spot where Lohse could use a strikeout. 31-year-old Aaron Hill is another guy that signed a long-term deal with the D-backs, signed a 5-year deal that'll take him through 2016. Little half swing bouncer to Betancourt. He'll go to the bag, and Parra cannot score.
That nice pitch right there. Looked like a slider he took a little bit off, and a check swing out. Beauty. Hey, groups can save over 80% off select games called Group Sales at 414-902-4777 or visit brewers.com/groups to catch a game from one of our all-inclusive areas, plan the perfect tailgate, and more.
Rick Kranitz, Brewers pitching coach, out to the mound. Talking a little strategy here. Miguel Montero is the batter. A big weapon in that Diamondbacks batting order, and a left-handed hitter.
Yeah, got first base open, 2 outs. Just want to make sure that they're patient at the plate. Make sure you don't give them anything good to hit. But Goldschmidt's on deck, the guy that drove in the only Diamondbacks run tonight.
Goldschmidt drove in the only Diamondbacks run back in the 4th. A 2-out double that scored Prado. Lohse back to the windup. Runner at third. 2 outs. And Montero takes a ball. And keep in mind, you've got a couple of infielders on the corners now, and Gonzalez and Betancourt. Shortstops by trade, but playing positions currently that they are not accustomed to. Gonzalez playing his first career game at third base right now, and Betancourt just his second career game at first. There's a strike, 2-1. Big hitter for Lohse. Could be his last hitter. And Montero into left field. Davis right there. He's got it. And Kyle Lohse, 6 strong innings in his Milwaukee debut. Done for the night, and 6 innings from Kyle Lohse, just 1 run. You couldn't have asked for anything more.
He was outstanding. I mean, what was very impressive about Lohse tonight is command of off speed, changeup very good. He got a big out on a 2-ball 1-strike changeup to Miguel Montero. So not only did Lohse pitch well, but he had a leadoff double in the 6th inning and did not allow the Diamondbacks to score. That's good stuff.
6 innings, 1 run, 5 strikeouts for Lohse. By the way, we got an update from the Brewers clubhouse. A left knee sprain for Ramirez. So some cause for concern there. Ramirez sliding into second base, had to be taken out of this game, and hopefully he is not going to miss too much.
Good news was that he walked off under his own power. It looked like he wasn't limping too badly, but now you never know. Those things have a tendency to tighten up on you.
Now the Lohse story is a big one, but Wade Miley has matched him pitch for pitch. Miley actually with 8 strikeouts thus far. Back to the top of the order. Nori Aoki has one of the 5 hits and a bouncer out to second. 1 away as Hill takes care of Aoki. Now the Diamondbacks had a lead in the 4th after the Goldschmidt RBI, but our shining moment brought to you by the Marshfield Clinic comes from Gene Segura. His first big league home run ties it up in the 4th.
And 2-0 fastball. He reared back and let her fly, and you see the fish pump. First homer in his career and tied the game for Kyle Lohse.
Segura showing bunt, able to pull it back. Ball 1. Wade Miley having his best game by far against Milwaukee. 2nd-year player, pitched against the Brewers twice last year and struggled on both occasions.
And the 13 runs overall in 2 starts against Milwaukee, 11 of them earned. Much different tonight.
3-0 to Segura. And there is ball 4. Segura was waiting for the strike call, not there. So a walk. Wade Miley issues his first free pass of the ball game, and the Brewers have a man on with 1 out. The Powerball home run leaderboard. Last year's individual totals, Braun not only led the club, but he led the National League in homers. Brewers as a team led the National League in home runs as well. There's a big bat still missing in Corey Hart, and all signs pointing towards a late April, early May return for Corey Hart.
Man, you hope so.
He's probably watching tonight back in the Phoenix area, and his rehab is going very well.
I know it doesn't take Corey long to come back. 3rd year now without much spring training. You hope he's not going to be out too much longer. It's not just what Corey provides for you on the field, it's what he gives to the team off the field in that clubhouse. That's a big guy to miss. One of your best run producers and one of your team leaders.
Ball and a strike on Weeks. Segura at first. Now, when the Brewers have had a runner at first base, Miley has virtually eliminated the possibility of a running game. A pitcher with a good move, as we talked about last inning with Gomez over there. 1 ball, 1 strike. And again, they check on Segura.
You saw the way Wade Miley's been able to mix his pitches. 2/3 fastballs, 1/3 of them off speed, sliders and changeups.
Back up the middle. 4-6-3 on a dig out by Goldschmidt. Weeks bounces into a double play. Wade Miley is through 6. A tight one here at Miller Park. Baseball on Fox Sports Wisconsin is brought to you by the Wisconsin Lottery, reminding you to please play responsibly. And by Miller Lite. It's not just a good time, it's Miller time. Friday night at Miller Park. Great to have you with us tonight. Hard hats are on. All business tonight from the two pitchers, Wade Miley and Kyle Lohse. Lohse in his Brewers debut goes 6 strong innings.
Well, and the sinker ball specialist, Burke Badenhop, his third appearance, has not allowed a run of his own. He came in a tough spot a few days ago. Bases loaded, nobody out. He got 3 outs, but allowed 3 runners to score.
Well, Burke Badenhop had a chance to catch up with him earlier about playing in Milwaukee for the first time.
I've never really played in front of great fans. You know, there'll be more people at our opening day probably than the average 3-game series. You know, I play with the Rays and the Marlins. That's not a knock on Rays and Marlins fans. They have good fans. They just don't have as many of them. And to be going to a Midwest city that's got, you know, values where they stick next to their team and stuff like that, just the support I've seen from fans, and they're really knowledgeable too.
Burke Badenhop, an Ohio native, played his college ball at Bowling Green from Perrysburg, Ohio, so he knows about the Midwest values, and he's looking forward to pitching here in Milwaukee. The Brewers acquired him in a trade with the Tampa Bay Rays, trading young outfielder Raul Mondesi Jr. And so far so good for Badenhop. His first 2 outings has been very efficient. He's a guy that can give you more than an inning at a time. He's a multi-inning reliever, which are becoming a rare bird these days.
Brewers have a fair amount of guys out in that bullpen that give you 1 or 2.
Facing Paul Goldschmidt to start this inning. Ron Renicky always talks about contrasting styles when he goes through a game. You know, you get a starter to a certain point, then you go to your bullpen, and you try not to have pitchers who are similar in style back each other up. And Badenhop is a guy that is so versatile and flexible for a manager because there's no one like him in the Brewers starting rotation.
And the big sinking fastball doesn't really rely on the strikeout. He gets a lot of ground balls who can get the double play ball for you. Got 2 saves in his career, an ERA just a little bit over 4. And he's been around a while.
Started his career with the Marlins, last year with the Rays in the American League for the first time.
Works out of the stretch all the time, and he's got that high leg kick, good balance on the back leg, and you can see that long stride as opposed to the stride for Kyle Lohse. Both of them sink the fastball. They do it in different ways.
It's a simple delivery.
Yeah. And the more you can, use your legs, the big muscles, the legs, the thighs, and that takes a lot of pressure off that elbow and shoulder.
The breaking ball that missed. Good take by Goldschmidt. Well, with a power hitter at the plate and some power coming up, Renicky goes with the sinker ball pitcher in Badenhop. Although Goldschmidt has great power on all pitch zones. Goldschmidt just burst onto the scene in 2011. And he terrorized Brewers pitching in the LDS of 2011. He had a huge series and then a full season in the major leagues last year. Goldschmidt had 20 home runs, 82 RBIs in his first full season in the big leagues, and he stole 18 bases.
Yeah, so he surprises you for a big guy. Very similar to the Brewers, this club. Combination of speed and power.
Just missed. Goldschmidt draws the walk. And again, the Diamondbacks have their leadoff hitter aboard. That's the 4th time tonight they've had a leadoff man aboard in the 7 innings. Only one of those has come around to score. That was Prado in the 4th on the RBI double by Goldschmidt.
Man, you just hate to see those leadoff walks, though. The first walk issued by the Brewers tonight.
So here's Kubel now. Well, Badenhop is missing, but just missing. Diamondbacks aren't biting. That one's in there, 1-1.
And Badenhop, features the two pitches, the big sinker. He's going to try and get Kubel to roll over on one and try and get his double play ball. Then he's got that sweeping slider that he'll use in this situation right here. He's going to throw the slider. But very effective against right-handed batters.
Let's see, ground ball fly ball ratio. Twice as many ground balls basically. And his best year for control last season, kept his walks way down. His bases on balls per 9 innings was 1.7, which is an extremely good number, especially for a reliever. And then you add his strikeouts at 6.1 strikeouts per 9 innings. So you're looking at about 3.5 to 1 strikeout to walk with a bunch of ground ball outs. That one's in the air to left and down for a base hit. And the Diamondbacks with a walk and a single by Kubel in business here in the 7th.
Hey, get behind the count, 2-1. Badenhop forced to get that pitch up just a little bit. And because of that, Kubel with a good piece of hitting, good approach. You see that baseball trying to get away, but up. Off the plate, but up. And Kubel goes right with it into left field. He tries to pull it. That's probably a double play ball. It's a good job by Kubel.
Well, Badenhop to the bottom of his Diamondbacks batting order. A.J. Pollock at the plate. And we'll see if Pollock is up there to put a bunt down. He squares, gets it down. Badenhop's only play is first. And a low throw, but an out recorded. Sacrifice bunt. Second and third now with one away.
And that heavy sinker over to Ricky at first base. Almost ate him up. Ricky telling, hey, take a little bit off and just throw it straight next time.
So Gonzalez in the bullpen, and Renicky is going to make the call here. With the switch hitter Cliff Pennington coming up. Renicky wants to turn him around. Badenhop, a walk and a hit, and out he goes. We'll take a timeout. Recently surprised 3 young fans in the Milwaukee area who have successfully overcome cancer. You can read about the quarterback's involvement with the MAC Fund and how Aaron is bringing more than smiles to these kids' faces from Paul Imig at foxsportswisconsin.com. Ron Renicky making the change here. Pennington is a switch hitter, so he goes with the left-handed hurler Michael Gonzalez.
Yeah, third appearance. Gonzalez pitched on Wednesday against the Colorado Rockies. Gave up a hit in a third of an inning. And looking to get a couple of outs and keep this game at 1-1.
Second and third, infield in. And Pennington takes ball one. So Badenhop issues a walk, gives up a hit, and then a sacrifice bunt. And those two runners aboard are his responsibility. Two and 0.
And you get this guy, and then you have the pitcher on deck. I don't think Kirk Gibson has any thought about taking Miley out of this game. Not the way he's been throwing the baseball.
Stats show you why Renicky wanted to turn Pennington around. Batting average about 20 points worse as a right-handed batter. And Gonzalez now 3-0. Inning started with a walk. And there's ball four. Goodness, 4 straight from Gonzalez, and the bases are loaded. And that's going to force the hand of Kirk Gibson. He will, in fact, go to the bench here.
Well, pitch counts, I would imagine, and normally during the regular season you might see him stay in there, but Miley's first start of the year, somewhere around 80-85 pitches.
It's going to be Alfredo Marte. And Rick Kranitz is on his way to the mound. So close the book on Miley. Still has a chance to win this game. Diamondbacks left-hander went 6 innings, 5 hits, 1 run. That home run by Segura. Had a walk and 8 strikeouts in his first start of the season. And for a guy who was experiencing a dead arm in spring training, it's kind of a cliche word they talk about when you don't have much velocity, your arm's tired. He came out and looked very good tonight.
Yeah, I mean, nothing really hurts when you have that dead arm. You just don't have velocity or feel for your pitches, and that certainly wasn't the case here tonight.
Alfredo Marte's batted 4 times this year, is hitless. So Renicky looking at Alex Gonzalez, and remember Gonzalez playing at third base for the first time in his big league career, going through the chopper and the instructions on what to do if it's chopped on the ground versus a hard hit ball. Yeah, Mike Gonzalez cannot throw a strike. That's 6 in a row.
Yeah, it's not going to much matter what you tell your infielders if your pitchers can't throw strikes. The other reason that Ron Renicky brought in the left-hander, as he got away with a 2-0 fastball right there to Marte. Two best pinch hitters for the Diamondbacks, both left-handed.
Marte fouls it away. It's 2-2.
Eric Chavez, Eric Hinsky, keep them on the bench, and we get some youngsters that get some at-bats.
Marte did make a start. This is his first year in the big leagues. He's still looking for his first hit in the major leagues. A free swinger. Here's a 2-2. And he takes ball 3. That was close.
That's a good take. Tough pitch to take. Young guy, bases loaded.
Big pitch coming here. Full count. Bases loaded. And a swing and a miss. Marte goes down on strikes. 2 gone in the inning.
And looked like he swung at ball 4. He did a real good job taking a slider on a 2-2 count. And then the fastball looked like it might have been off the corner, too close to take, and he gets him.
Well, that's the good news. The bad news, Gonzalez has to face one of the hottest hitters going to start the season, Gerardo Parra, who has a double tonight and has 9 hits this year already. In 4 games, he's 9 for 19. Bases loaded, 2 outs. Parra chops it foul.
Yeah, but Rennie's got his lefty-lefty matchup that he wants.
And that skips away from Lucroy. And this could play the couple. They're going to send him. And 2 runs are going to score on a wild pitch.
That might have been a cross-up right there. Well, how about that? Yeah, Lucroy is going to go out and talk to Gonzalez. Lucroy obviously looking for something other than what Gonzalez threw, and going to have a chat with him. That actually hit the umpire. Lucroy never got a piece of that pitch. Hits the umpire right in the mask, and 2 runs come across. I think Lucroy was expecting a slider.
Yeah, I think you're right. Didn't even get a glove on it.
No,
Had it gone straight back to the screen, would have been beneficial for the Brewers. 2 runs are in. And now it's 2-1.
Yeah, if Lucroy is looking for a fastball, he's going to catch that pitch. I mean, without a doubt.
Diamondbacks lead 3-1 on a strange sequence here. Think about how Gonzalez has pitched to start this season and how runs have scored against him. Remember in the Rockies series, the 3 infield hits. And now a wild pitch that plates 2 runs, not 1. Runner at third, 2 outs, 2-2 the count. Those 2 runs will belong to Berg Badenhop. Earned runs on the wild pitch. And now 3-2. Mike Gonzalez had a terrific year last year with the Nationals. Part of the bullpen upgrade for Doug Melvin this offseason. He and Gorzolani and Badenhop. But off to a rough start. 3-2 pitch, and that one misses down and away. The 3rd walk of the inning. Second by Gonzalez.
Yeah, right-hander getting loose out in the bullpen, and Prado walking to the plate. We'll see what Ron Reddick elects to do. Jim Henderson. All right, 3 walks in the inning. A wild pitch. Only 1 base hit for the Diamondbacks.
3-1 D-backs. Martin Prado takes a strike. Former teammates matching up here. They were together in Atlanta. Gonzalez did some closing for the Braves at one time. Pittsburgh Pirates had some closing opportunities. He drops a strike in there, off speed pitch. And it's 0-2 on Prado. Looking ahead to the Brewers bottom of the 7th. Betancourt will lead off, then Lucroy, and then Gonzalez. No Braun and no Ramirez in this game the rest of the way. Braun was a scratch before the game. Ramirez with a left knee sprain, leaving the game in the 4th.
And not much you can do as far as manager goes, position players go, and you're not throwing the ball over the plate. Diamondbacks have stayed very patient this inning.
And Prado down on strikes. But 2 runs score on 1 wild pitch. And it's 3-1 Arizona.
As we head to the bottom of the 7th, I'm Sophia Minner, and pleased to bring you our AT&T Twitter poll. All eyes on Kyle Lohse tonight, and boy, did he deliver in his Brewers debut. We asked Brewers fans tonight, what is the biggest contribution Kyle Lohse can make? 9% said his wins, 52% said his leadership and mentorship, 39% said his innings. He went 6 innings tonight, giving up just 1 run and 5 strikeouts. And Brian, we'll hear more from Brewers fans on Lohse's debut on Brewers Live after the game.
All right, thanks a lot, Sophia. And looking forward to hearing Kyle Lohse's post-game comments as well. He exited in a 1-1 tie. Diamondbacks now lead 3-1. And Brad Ziegler, the sidewinder, is in for Arizona now as we move to the home 7th.
Man, this guy was tremendous last year for the Diamondbacks. 6-1 record in 77 relief appearances. Had a .249 earned run average.
Yuni Betancourt, his first at bat. Ziegler slings one in. 1 ball, 1 strike. Betancourt came in for the injured Aramis Ramirez. Playing first base, moved Alex Gonzalez over to third. And a shot back up the middle, base hit. So Uni B comes up with a hit, and the Brewers put a man on to start this 7th inning, and will bring the tying run to the plate.
Yeah, that's the approach you have to take against a guy that throws like this. Right-hander's got to keep that front shoulder closed, shoot it up the middle. Ziegler leaving it inside for Uni. Up in his zone, and he bangs it into center field. Good job. You see that front shoulder stay closed, and thinking up the middle into center field.
Here's Jonathan Lucroy now. Still hitless on the season. 0 for 11. Ziegler's a terrific story, being signed out of the Northern League by the Oakland A's. Lucroy, a bouncer to third, foul, just missed the line. The Northern League is an independent league. A lot of guys come out of college, if they're not drafted and they want to continue their career, they go to a Northern League type league, not affiliated. There's also the Atlantic League, which does not have a major league affiliation. And every now and then you see a story pop up. The Brewers have one in Brandon Kintzler. who pitched at St. Paul and Winnipeg in the Northern League. Ziegler's dropped down to that side winding motion and completely turned his career around.
He's been in the minor leagues a long time. He appeared with the Oakland A's. He's got some considerable big league experience. And a terrific season a year ago.
He did not make it to the big leagues until he was 28 years of age. 33 now. Lucroy waves and misses. And the first strikeout for Ziegler. One gone. Betancourt still at first. And that'll bring up Alex Gonzalez.
And once he has you thinking inside with that sinker, he'll throw that frisbee slider. Ends up off the outside corner. You pull your front shoulder. You don't have much of a chance to get a piece of it. He doesn't throw anything straight.
Gonzalez 1 for 11 this year. His one hit produced a run on Wednesday against the Rockies. And a tapper over the mound. Second baseman Hill for out number 2. Betancourt ends up at second base. So 2 gone now. Here comes Chris Davis. Davis 0 for 2 tonight, couple of strikeouts. Led the Brewers this spring in the Cactus League in home runs, hit 6 of them. And earned a spot on the opening day roster. He gets his first start tonight.
Tough duty for a young right-handed batter facing this sidewinder here. Most of the damage that you're going to be able to do has got to be up the middle, opposite field. You don't figure Ziegler to give him anything to pull. We'll see. Coming inside.
Ziegler doesn't give up many home runs. Gave up just 2 all of last year. But he has given up a home run this season. Appearing in his 3rd game. Betancourt second. Here's a 1-1. And Davis lays off the breaking ball. 2 balls and a strike. It wasn't just the spring training for Chris Davis that earned him a spot on the big league roster. It certainly helped. Well, he has put together a nice career in the minor leagues. Davis, a career .294 hitter in the minor leagues. That includes a season last season in 3 different locations where he hit over 300. At 310 in AAA last season. And there's ball 4.
Good patience that time. An impressive at bat for the young right-hander.
Well, now the tying run is aboard, and Carlos Gomez, a low ball hitter against a sinker ball specialist, representing the go-ahead run here in the 7th.
And a guy that loves the baseball in on him. So if Ziegler throws that sinker, leaves one up. Expect Gomez to get a pretty good swing at it.
And a base hit his last time up. He's 1 for 2 tonight, Gomez. Gomez coming off a 19 home run season, a career high a season ago. And a bouncer right back to the mound. Ziegler makes the play, and the side is retired. The Brewers threaten. They get 2 on, but come up empty. Still 3-1 Arizona. Kyle Lohse, the story tonight, and a terrific start for him. 6 innings, 5 strikeouts, gave up just 1 run. Gene Segura with his first major league home run, tied it at 1. Then a wild pitch that produced not 1 but 2 runs, delivered by Mike Gonzalez. That came in the 7th, and that's where we are. 3-1 Diamondbacks as we go to the 8th. And the next hurler out of the bullpen for Ron Renneke is Tom Gorzolani.
Yeah, early on, his 3rd appearance so far this year in this young season, 675. And 1 strikeout, a couple of walks. Gorzolani, one of 3 left-handers available out in that bullpen for Ron Renneke. Chris Narveson the other. Interesting that because Lohse went 6 innings, Ron Renneke didn't feel as though he needed his long left-hander out there, the guy that can give you maybe 2-3 innings. So it's Gorzolani here in the 8th.
We're getting a look at all 3 of the bullpen additions this offseason, and Baden-Hopp, Gonzalez, and Gorzolani. Has not gone well for the first 2. Both of the runs on that wild pitch by Gonzalez belonging to Baden-Hopp, earned runs, as Narveson continues to wait his turn. So Aaron Hill will lead off, a Brewer killer over the years. Aaron Hill hit for 2 cycles last year in an 11-day span. Home run, triple, double, single. Did it twice, and the second was here in Milwaukee, right here at Miller Park.
An amazing feat. I mean, to do it once in your career is amazing.
Twice in 11 days.
Right.
It's incredible. In 9 games against the Brewers leading up to tonight, a .528 hitter. Some of those games came as a member of the Blue Jays.
And he's 1 for 3 tonight.
So now 20 hits in 39 at-bats for Aaron Hill. And he's had 3 4-hit games against Milwaukee during that stretch. Gorzolani pops him up. Betancourt will make the call and the catch, 1 away. Now injuries are a concern tonight. Have to stay tuned for Brewers Live postgame. Craig and Davey, Mark and Cannon will get you caught up on the latest from the clubhouse. Ryan Braun, a late scratch from the lineup, a neck injury.
And just hope that those 2 aren't going to be out any considerable amount of time. But well, you have Ramirez, Braun, and you have Corey Hart out of the lineup. Boy, that's a lot of run production. Tough to make up for that.
Ramirez left with a left knee sprain in the 4th inning. If you're just tuning us in here and wondering where all the sluggers are.
Kind of getting into that New York Yankees category. All their big lumber on the bench. Teixeira, Jeter, Granderson. Who am I missing? A-Rod.
A-Rod. Yankees lost today. Tigers beat them 8-3. Prince Fielder had a couple of home runs. That was the home opener for Detroit. Still looks odd to look at the Yankees lineup and see Kevin Youkilis playing 3rd base for the Yankees, right?
Yeah.
Lyle Overbay playing for the Yankees now. There's a swing and a foul tip right into the middle of Lucroy, and a strikeout for Gorzolani. 2 up and 2 down here in the 8th.
Good breaking ball from Gorzolani. Low 90s fastball. He's got a good changeup and been a starter throughout most of his career except for last year. They pitched some good games. The Gorzolani against the Brewers as a Pittsburgh Pirate.
So 2 outs. Paul Goldschmidt now. He's had a nice game at the plate. Goldschmidt doubled in the first Diamondbacks run. Then he walked and scored in the 7th.
See, the Nationals finally lost the game.
I didn't think they were going to lose all year.
14-2. Cincinnati beat them.
Yeah, Homer Bailey picked up his first win. Did not allow an earned run. Reds are 3-1. Reds are a very talented ball club. No question. We saw a lot of them this spring. They don't have many holes in their roster. Goldschmidt to right. Well hit. Aoki with room. And Gorzalani settles it down. A 3-up, 3-down 8th. Brewers running out of time. We head to the home 8th.
Diamondbacks by 2, getting late here one more time at Miller Park. Craig and Davey getting set for Brewers Live postgame on the way. And Lohse looked near brilliant. The bullpen, however, all the new faces right now, just having a tough time putting it all together at this point early on.
Well, it certainly have, and what a tough act to follow after Kyle Lohse pitched so well. And then there's a lot of pressure on the bullpen, you know, and the one thing, though, that's been hurting that bullpen are walks. And walks certainly played a big part in that big inning that the Diamondbacks had.
Well, full post-game reaction coming up after the game, and also a health update on Aramis, Ramirez, and Ryan Braun as well. Brewers Live postgame on the way, Brian.
All right, thanks a lot, Craig and Davey. Logan Schaefer will pinch hit. He is the second to last available. Only Maldonado remains for Ron Renicky. Schaefer will bat against the new Diamondbacks pitcher, the setup man for J.J. Putz, David Hernandez. 3-1 Arizona.
Yeah, Hernandez has had some time as a closer with these Diamondbacks. His 3rd year with Arizona. You got 3 guys down in their bullpen that can close for you. Got Heath Bell, who talked about J.J. Putz, and David Hernandez. Off to a good start.
Schaefer takes ball 2. The Brewers last inning did have a couple of runners on. Carlos Gomez bounced out to the mound to end the threat. And the young outfielder Schaefer getting a chance here as a pinch hitter. Schaefer has been announced the last couple of games as a pinch hitter, but he's been a decoy. Hasn't actually gotten to swing the bat.
So he's actually appeared in every game so far.
Right. But one at bat. 2-2 to Schaefer. Count goes full. That'd be a good guy to get on base. Schaefer has great speed. Top of the order due up next. Schaefer a little bit late pops it up. Long run. And that's going to bounce foul. 3 Diamondbacks converging. Kubel, Pennington, and Prado, and somehow the baseball lands between them.
Yeah, tough catch for everybody. I think Kubel had the best shot at it, but it looked as though Pennington got in his way. And Pennington peels off. Of course, you didn't hear anybody calling it. No chance for the third baseman. The angle just too tough. Pennington going back, and watch Kubel. He might get it if Pennington isn't in his way.
So a break for Schaefer and the Brewers. And new life at the plate. Full count. Lead man up here in the 8th inning for Milwaukee. And Schaefer slaps one into left center. A base hit. Every time you see this guy, you appreciate his game that much more. We saw a lot of him this spring. He was so impressive last year off the bench. Wernicke has no problem using him, even though he's a young hitter.
Look at this pitch. I mean, it's a good pitch, and look at the way he stays on top of it. Top down. Tough to line that baseball, but able to dump it into center field. So a leadoff base runner for the Brewers, tying run at the plate. Very nice piece of hitting by Logan Schaefer.
Top of the order coming up. Nori Aoki. Little bouncer that will go foul or fair. Wait a minute, that ball looked foul.
Wow.
It was called by the home plate umpire, who has the call before it gets to the bag. And Wernicke wants to talk it over with the first base umpire. I think he's going to redirect him. Sam Holbrook will say it's not my call.
That's first base or the home plate umpire's call until it gets beyond the bag, but that can change if a base umpire sees it better than the home plate umpire. Umpire can ask for help. Any part of the baseball touching any part of the line, and it's a fair ball.
Ron Wernicke talking to the crew chief. And now Sam Holbrook will have a meeting with Chris Conroy, the home plate umpire.
Not much of a discussion, was it? I'm not sure we're going to be able to see it, but does he get it before it gets foul? It's going to hit the grass, and that ball looked foul. It really did. I mean, we don't have a very good angle on it. The home plate umpire is right on it. Maybe this will get a better look. Well, maybe.
Close.
It is close.
So it goes as a fair ball and an out. One away. Schaefer ends up at second base. And here is Segura. Gene Segura at the plate, presented by Wendy's. His first major league home run coming in the 4th inning, and he knocked it over the center field fence. Walked his last time up. Schaefer should score on a base hit to the outfield as Segura takes a strike. 1-1. And just to clarify, before the ball gets to the bag at first, that's the home plate umpire's call, and that's why Sam Holbrook was operating as the crew chief, trying to get an explanation, but really can't overrule such a call.
You know, we're going to have Bruce Fleming on our instructional tonight, and you know, maybe I'll ask him about that.
Yeah.
Bruce is going to break down the new rule in baseball, the fake the third, throw to first.
Maybe he could squeeze that one in. I don't want to throw him off his game, but that'd be a good one to talk
he can handle a lot. He's a crew chief for many years. He's going to be okay.
50 years in the game as an umpire, I guess so, right? Ryan Braun in the dugout, maybe preparing for an at-bat. 1 ball, 2 strikes the count on Segura. And he's down on strikes. Nasty slider by Hernandez. As soon as the game is over, Craig and Davey will bring you Brewers Live. Davey and Rock will have our post-game instructional with Bruce Fleming, legendary future Hall of Fame umpire. Not pictured.
Cameo. See, now Bruce will be a cameo appearance. I'm not a cameo in those instructions.
You're a regular.
Right.
2 outs for Weeks. David Hernandez, a tough customer on the mound. And Weeks takes that slider for a strike. The get-over variety. One of the reasons the Diamondbacks are so confident in their prospects this season is their late bullpen. With Hernandez setting up J.J. Putz. Ziegler is an outstanding 7th inning man, the sidewinder. Heath Bell is not pitching well right now and did not pitch well last year, but a guy who's been there before. Well, that is a knee buckling breaking ball from Hernandez, and now it's 2-2.
Yeah, what makes that pitch so tough is how late it breaks. Looks like a fastball until right before it gets to home plate.
Weeks looking for a hanger. Can't imagine he'd throw him anything but a breaking ball. 2-2. And he's able to lay off. Good take. Full count. Well, now, what do you do if you're the pitcher? Do you go back to your bread and butter pitch? Run the risk of putting the tying run aboard?
Well, he hasn't hung one of those sliders yet, so you figure it's going to be another.
Full count, 2 outs. And he got him. He went back to the slider, and Weeks is down on strikes.
As we head to the 9th inning, and at every regularly priced Brewers home game, fans can purchase half-price Lohse bleacher tickets in Club Goodwill. These tickets are sold day of game only and at the ticket windows in left field.
We head to the 9th inning at Miller Park. Diamondbacks lead 3-1. Logan Schaefer, after his base hit in a pinch hit appearance, will stay in the game to play right field. Renicky employs a double switch here, and Brandon Kinsler is on to pitch. We put Kinsler in Nori Aoki's leadoff spot.
And pitched well last time out against the Colorado Rockies on Tuesday. A scoreless inning.
A wild pitch that led to 2 runs is the difference in this ball game. Wade Miley and Kyle Lohse, both starters, pitched well tonight, each going 6 innings, each giving up 1 run. Lohse didn't walk a batter and struck out 5. Miley is in line for the win now as Jason Kubel on the first pitch. Out to Gomez in center field. 1 pitch, 1 out for Kinsler. And Davey Nelson talked about the command problems in the 7th inning, and it wasn't just the 3 walks. It was getting behind in the count, and then the wild pitch that was so wild it hit the mask of the umpire and ricocheted off to the right near the Brewers dugout, and 2 runs scored on the same wild pitch, and it looked like Lucroy was crossed up in that particular sequence.
Yeah, because it was a fastball, and ordinarily if you're looking for it, you're going to be able to get a glove on it at least and keep it close, but and Lucroy never got a glove, and unfortunately that's been the difference in the game so far. Now when you're looking for something off speed, which is what it looked as though Lucroy was anticipating, you get a fastball, it's very difficult to make that adjustment. The other way around, you have a chance.
Ball's hit hard, knocked down by Weeks, recovers, throws, and it's in time. What a play by Ricky Weeks.
Well, Steve Sachs, the first base coach, is livid over there at Sam Holbrook, the first base umpire. Pollock diving into first base, and what a play by Ricky Weeks, though. You know, 1 hopper, he dove, he knocked it down, and was able to get off a very good throw to first base. Looked like a base hit. Ricky able to knock it down, collects himself, and gets a good throw to first. And it looked like he might have beat it.
Every instinct about you says to dive there, but they've done studies. You can run through the bag faster than you can dive for the bag. The only time you want to dive is if you're trying to avoid a tag, and just an odd angle by Pollock.
I'll tell you what made the play for Ricky is that Pollock started to make his turn. Did you see the way he had a little bit of a bow in his line to first, and that's all it took for him to be called out.
And this will be the most definitive look.
Yeah, he's safe.
Yeah.
I mean, not even close. He looked safe. But it wouldn't have been that close had he not anticipated the ball going into right. He started his turn to go towards second base.
So the Brewers get a break here. 2 gone in the inning. Kinsler, it's Pennington to swing and miss, and now ahead of him 1-2.
Yeah, check out the base runner. He thinks his ball. What? There it is, right there. He starts his angle, and he was safe but called out.
Much easier play for Weeks. Side retired. Kinsler 3 up, 3 down, and we head to the bottom of the 9th. The Brewers have some Miller Park magic in them tonight. They're down a pair. To the bottom of the ninth we go at Miller Park, and the Brewers trying to avoid a 1-3 start to begin the year. They won opening day, lost the last two in the series of the Rockies. They're down 2 as we go to the home ninth, and they'll have to deal with Diamondbacks closer J.J. Putz.
Yeah, fastball, split-fingered fastball for the Diamondbacks closer. 32 out of 37 a year ago, a 282 earned run average in 57 games. And look at the strikeouts, 65 of them in a little over 54 innings.
Brewers going to have to do it without some of their big guns here. Ramirez is out with an injury. Braun was in the dugout a moment ago, despite a late scratch from the starting lineup. He looked as if he might be available to hit. And has a helmet on now, so if the time comes, we could see Braun. Betancourt. He had a hit his last time up, which was his first at bat. You see the heat pack that is on the neck, the right side. That's where the neck spasms were for Braun.
You probably won't see him until you get down to Chris Davis' spot in the batting order.
Davis' spot is 4th up in this inning. Going to have a base runner. Betancourt took over for Ramirez. Ramos was 1 for 2 tonight and was injured, sliding into second base, trying to stretch it into a double back in the 4th inning. 2 balls and a strike on Uni B. 3-1. Scary thing about Ramirez's injury is that's twice now he's had a sprained left knee, the same knee he injured in spring training. Re-injures it here tonight. That'll be a story moving forward for the rest of this homestand. Full count to Betancourt. Patrick Corbin scheduled tomorrow against Mike Fiers, both making their first starts of the season. Young pitchers with bright futures. Miller Lite, what's on tap? We're on the air tomorrow, 5:30 in the Central Time Zone for Brewers Live. Brewers down 2 in the 9th. Betancourt trying to reach. Lucroy to follow. And the payoff pitch. And it's ball 4.
Oh, good at bat right there. J.J. Putz does not walk that many. Didn't last year. So the tying run will come to the plate.
Putz has been a dependable closer for the Diamondbacks. There's Jonathan Lucroy. 0 for 12 to start the year, and you know the wheels are starting to churn a little bit for Lucroy. Hoping this will be the at-bat. He breaks through. Takes a strike. Well-placed fastball by Putz.
Yep, 91 and 93 with a fastball. Not overpowering. Not anymore. But once he gets ahead, you see him with that split-fingered fastball grip. That's his put-away pitch.
Tying run at the plate. And there's strike 2. Another fastball right in the same spot almost.
Not much to do about that if you're Luke. Right on the corner.
That's a Hall of Fame spot out there. Check out the Fox tracks brought to you by Jeep. See where Putz has pitched Lucroy so far. See what he has in mind here. 0-2. Down in the dirt. In the Diamondbacks playoff year in 2011, Putz was one of the best in the game closing games at 45 saves in 2011. And he finished the year with an ERA of 2.17. Just like Axford with the Brewers. No secret why both teams ended up in the postseason with great bullpens. Lucroy lays off.
Tough to take that. With 2 strikes. Right down the heart of the plate and just dipped right at the end. Tantalizing pitch, but Lucroy able to lay off.
Well, that pitch right there in that same spot produces a lot of outs for J.J. Putz.
Yes, it does.
Two and two. Diamondbacks scored twice in the 7th inning on a wild pitch. Both runs scoring on the same wild pitch. And that's the difference right now. 3-1. 2-2. And Lucroy down swinging. Back to the splitter.
Threw down a little bit harder than the first. Looked more like a fastball. And got him. See the grip. You see the way he has the fingers on the laces. And Lucroy can't hold up. Toughest pitch in baseball to identify if you're hitting. Just can't see it.
That is the 12th strikeout for Arizona pitchers tonight. And now one gone, and Alex Gonzalez at the plate. Bouncing ball to third. Backing up on it. Prado to second for one. No throw from Hill. And the Brewers are down to their last out. Good play by Martin Prado.
Well, if Ryan Braun is available, he'll be coming out right here. If not, it'll be Chris Davis. And it looks like it's going to be Chris Davis.
Just makes you wonder if Renicky was using Braun as a decoy. He had a helmet on, not sure. But it will be Davis instead. Davis in his first start in the big leagues. 0 for 4 so far in his first year in the big leagues. Drew a walk his last time up. Davis has as much power as anybody on the roster. And he showed it this spring. I mean, not only did he hit 6 home runs, he hit some mammoth home runs.
Yes, he did. Could use one now.
He's the tying run. Got a big cut. And a ball and a strike.
Yeah, the last thing you want to do if you're Ron Renicky is run Ryan Braun up there in the plate tonight and have him injure it even more. I mean, as it stands right now, this is one game of 162, and you know, maybe 1 game, 2 games he might miss. If he goes up there and takes a couple of big hacks, you might miss him for maybe 2 weeks.
Well, Davis has his moment. 2 balls and a strike.
The other thing is Ryan Braun might have just put that helmet on his own. Ron Renicky might have had no intention of using him tonight.
Now we'll find out all of that after the game tonight. We'll hear from the skipper in Brewers Live postgame. Hitters count for Davis. And a strike called on the outside corner. 2-2.
He's done that a lot in this inning. Nothing you can do with that pitch.
Close. Braun doesn't look comfortable on the bench, although he still has a helmet on. Brewers down to their last strike. The 2-2 pitch, and Davis swings and misses, and that's the ball game. The Diamondbacks defeat the Brewers by a final of 3-1. Wade Miley picks up the win. J.J. puts the save, and Arizona starts the season 3-1. Time for Brewers Live. We send it out to Craig Kashawn. Craig.
All right, Brian, thanks very much. Coming up on Brewers Live postgame, we're going to get a health update on Ryan Braun and Ramirez as well. Hear from the skipper, Ron Renneke. Get inside the clubhouse, and Bruce Fleming is our guest as well. Stay with us.